Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Little Things podcast. I'm Bethany Werner,
I'm Rachel Hines.
and we have a guest today, Suzanne
Schneider.
Oh my gosh.
See, you psyched yourself out. You got too worried.
I
But good
asked
job.
her.
You got it. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. She's here and she's amazing.
Thank you.
And she's going to share some wealth with us.
Yeah. Well, we were talking. A lot of what we talk about is resources for families, whether they're older children, younger children, but a lot with early childhood. And right now, we know that there's really a crisis, not only in Lincoln, but everywhere with early childhood care and education. So Suzanne is kind of an expert in this field. How long have you been in this field, Suzanne?
Oh, it's going to age me, but over 30 years of doing work in early childhood.
It doesn't really age you. It's just that you were so smart that you started when you were 5.
I'm seasoned. I'm seasoned.
You were just a genius that you could start in this field at 5, right?
Right after.
But over 30 years, that's a lot of knowledge. So what have you done? Give us your rundown.
Oh my. So I have been a teacher in a classroom. I've been an administrator. I've worked on the quality side of things. I've worked on the curriculum side. I've worked with higher ed. And, most recently I've worked with Lincoln Littles, which is advocacy. You're going to cut that, right? Advocacy and support for the community.
Yeah, which is awesome. So tell us a little bit about the background. How did Lincoln Littles even come about?
Yeah, Lincoln Littles was formed through Prosper Lincoln. They did a study to really determine why are some people in our community thriving and why are some people not thriving. And interestingly enough, some of the usual suspects rose to the top: affordable housing, strong neighborhoods, but early childhood was in that mix. And so that was in 2017. Lincoln started investing in early childhood. And at the time, Michelle Suarez was our founding early childhood person, and she helped us really think about what's going on with early childhood. And she laid some of that early foundational work. And some of the initial work included scholarships for families to help pay for the cost of childcare. And then in 2019, Michelle decided to retire, and our guidance people decided that this work really should be done by 2 people. One person wasn't enough. And so they split the position in half, and they have Ann Brandt, who's our executive director, and myself to split the work. And so we had scholarships, and since then we have expanded the work to include focusing on quality. Do our child care providers, whether they're family homes or centers, do they have what they need to make sure that they're able to have quality spaces for more and all children in our community? We focus on engagement. We're working with businesses to really understand, who are your employees? Do your employees have young children? Do you have best practices in place to meet your employee needs? Do you need to change your benefits or review what's happening? Do you need to support childcare in some way with your employees? And then also just engaging our entire community, our city government and our school system, and everyone to understand that early childhood does impact everyone, even if you don't have young children. You might live next door to someone who does, you might work with someone who does, and also, what about the long-term impacts for the future if we don't invest in the early years? And we work with policy, we work with our city and state government to really think about policies and practices that are in place for young children and families, and are we meeting their needs? Are we really addressing where gaps and barriers are? And then the fourth area is our affordability area, which is the scholarships and tuition assistance. And then we added in a piece this year where we're focusing on workforce for early childhood.
Which is just amazing. I mean, really, in this field, and you talked about, really everybody's affected by early childhood, by care, because even if you employ people who have children, if you don't have children yourself, they're going to need to have quality care for their kiddos for them to be at work consistently.
Right. How good is your employee if they have dropped their child off somewhere that they're not comfortable with?
Yep.
Are they really engaged in their work for the day? No, they're worried about their child. They're not the best employee they can be.
Yep.
And so their head is not in the game. So if we focus on that early childhood piece, then you're going to have more focused employees yourself.
Well, and how exciting that Lincoln Littles has just continued to to grow beyond just that scholarship piece is so important for so many families and for providers, but also all the rest of it.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's grown. I mean, it's a startup nonprofit,
Yeah.
and boy, we've been really, really growing. And we added 2 positions this year, so we doubled our workforce, which is great. And one of those positions is Dr. Julie Jones Branch, and she will help us focus on the workforce issues with early childhood.
And she may or may not be in this room, but without headphones on.
Choosing not to participate. But we'll get her another
That's
time.
okay. We'll just, oh my goodness, I just went mute. How did Julie just do that?
I can hear you.
Oh, well, I just got I think this is just going to be the curse of today. Now my headphones don't work.
Oh, weird.
I can hear you.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Okay.
I'll fix this.
Okay, so can you give us kind of an overview of Lincoln's childcare landscape?
Yeah, so Lincoln has about 115 childcare centers, and we have almost 300 family home childcare programs. There's about 18,000 kids in Lincoln, 0 to 5, and we have childcare capacity, including the family home providers, childcare centers, and our public school part-day program. We have a capacity for about 15,000. So we're short about 3,000 seats. But then when we think about quality, so we have enough maybe seats for maybe some people aren't working or maybe their children don't need that childcare piece. But when we look at that quality side, that's where we really start noticing the gaps and barriers for kids and families. And so that's a little bit about the landscape of the childcare system. We have our Step Up to Quality rating system, which is a statewide rating system to help families and programs identify quality. And Lincoln has quite a few programs participating in raising their quality. And it was difficult, though, the last 3 years in a pandemic were not really a time to raise quality. But as we're kind of coming out of that, now we're seeing more programs get invested and really doing self-studies and looking at what's going on in their programs and
How to make those changes.
yeah, how to get some best practice things going and raise quality. So we see that getting better. Yeah.
Speaking of the pandemic, what have you noticed? What's changed since the pandemic?
Well, before the pandemic, we had enough childcare capacity, and now we're short capacity because we've had some programs close.
Sure.
But in addition to that, our workforce challenges for childcare are so different that we have childcare programs that have empty classrooms, and they're empty because they don't have the staff to staff the classroom. So that's really different. I mean, there's always been a turnover in the early childhood world. That's a common thing, but as much as it has really increased. And then additionally, we're seeing a lot of administrators, childcare directors leave the field completely and do other things, which historically those jobs were, hot to come by. And if you got a good director, they were going to stay there until they could retire probably. And now we're seeing a lot of turnover at that higher level. So that's different.
Why do you think that is?
I think there's the burnout. When the pandemic hit, schools closed, but childcare programs did not. And actually childcare programs picked up the slack of where were all the kids going so parents could work. And so they stayed open and they struggled through. And the childcare programs have state ratios they have to meet. So if their workforce is short, they can't just combine the kids for the day.
Right.
They have to go into the ratio and pick up the missing teacher. That role falls on the director. So she or he may spend all day in the classroom with the children, but then still have their administrative work to do in the evening or weekend. And so we're seeing so much burnout at that level. And I think that has a lot to do with it. We're also seeing a higher increase in children's challenging behaviors and also speech and language delays. We had 3 years of young children who are at their peak of growth time, not having the language modeling and the social interactions that might have happened if they were exposed to a non-COVID early start in life.
Right.
So we're seeing those challenges. So if you have a workforce that is less trained and less educated than we had in the past, and then we have children with challenging and different behaviors than in the past, then that experience all day long, every day can really be draining on the workforce, but especially on the administration.
So tell us a little bit. I've seen, what is Lincoln Little's doing? The foundations is. I don't want to say the wrong.
No, it's
title,
okay.
but
We tend to like acronyms, which
Yeah.
make things confusing. So
Yeah.
I'm going to summarize it without all the title lists.
Sure.
So we obviously can't pay people more. We
Right.
can't offer benefits to employees, but what we can do is make some impact to help support childcare programs with staff that may be coming into the industry with less experience or less education, by hosting some very foundational orientation training support. So we have a program where people can come and do, right now, it's a 2-day program. So they're spending 16 hours with us, with Julie, who I
Sure.
mentioned earlier, and they will get some of the very basic training that no matter where you work in childcare, this training is going to be essential and most likely required. Things like CPR and first aid and some social emotional supports. And so they're coming under our wings to do that. And we think that, one, we're giving them the support they need to make sure they get their training done. But then we're also taking a little bit of burden off of the administrator who may or may not have time to spend getting their own staff the orientation. And so we have just closed registration for our April session, and we have, this will be 57 people that will have gone through the program since August. So we feel really good about that.
Well, and what a blessing as they're stepping into a new role. They have a little bit of background where they don't feel like they're just going in blind.
Yeah, and I think the other piece that's really kind of cool about this concept is we're developing a community of childcare people that are doing the same work, maybe at different locations, but they're finding a community of support within each other. And they actually, after their training orientation, they continue to meet once a month in the evenings for an hour. And we'll hear one person say, I have this child in my class that is biting. Does anyone have any ideas? And they're sharing tips and tricks with each other and supporting each other.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That
and
is
it's
huge.
Yeah, and it's not in a competitive way, like my program's better than your program.
How can we
It's-
support each other?
Right. We're really, really, and I think that's one thing that has been one of Lincoln Little's goals is to bring the industry together as a community and, maybe not be as competitive.
Yeah.
We have enough kids and families,
Yeah.
so let's work together.
It's so interesting you say that because then I think of it's almost like in the mom world too, where when you are finally able to talk to a mom and maybe say like, yeah, biting or whatever it is, if we can not be competitive and we can be vulnerable enough, it's nice to hear, oh my goodness, me too, or we struggled with that, or it's so good to hear you're not alone,
Yes, it does.
Just that support. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it normalizes some of the things that
Yes.
are, normal child development things.
instead of I must be doing something wrong or
Right. Yeah. And one of the people that just finished our class in their last evening cadre group, she was talking about what a better teacher she is and how much calmer she feels and how much more knowledgeable she feels working, with the kids in her class. And for us, that was just that's what we really want. We want people to have some confidence when they're working with young children and know that they do have a background and they are doing the right thing, even though they might not have had that formal background. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So let's, instead of talking about Lincoln Littles for just a second, what drives your passion? You've been in early childhood for a long time. I know you are super passionate about it, and I think we could probably list all the things you've done in about 3 days' time. What drives that passion, Suzanne?
I just really care deeply about young children, and I care about their futures, and I care about our community. And I know that if we invest now then the long-term outcomes are so huge. And I think I've seen it in my own lifetime. I've seen it in my children's lifetime. And I just know that like that focus I don't know, it's a feel good. You know, it's a thankless job sometimes because people don't tell you all the great things, but the thankfulness comes from the outcomes you see in the kids and family in our community, and knowing that we are impacting graduation rates, we're impacting the prison pipeline, we're impacting so many things for kids and families. So
It's so true.
Yeah.
I feel like that role can sometimes be so taken for granted or, expected almost. But then becoming a mother, it's like, what is more important than that early childhood?
Yeah.
Knowing, like you were saying earlier, someone is caring and loving for this baby and putting him up for success, and baby being, 5 or under or 15 or under or whatever,
Or 23
that's
and
always
under.
someone's baby.
yeah, and kids don't come with manuals and handbooks, and so parents need help, and they need people that have parented before to help them. And so I think that, that also drives my passion, helping parents just really feel like you can do this. You are a good parent. You're not making mistakes. It's okay.
Have you found that to be such an important part of partnering with those parents? And tell me more about that. What have you done?
Yeah, I think, we have parents, we'll have parents call and they have questions about their child care or an experience with their child. And they're just looking for someone to talk to and looking for guidance and support. And in turn, it's just listening and then putting it back on them and letting them know you are advocating for yourself, and, trust your gut, trust your judgment, don't doubt yourself. And they just need someone to give them a little confidence boost and let them know you're doing great. And then they just feel so empowered after just one person telling them you're doing a great job.
Yeah. Well, and I know that you, as Lincoln Littles, have done a lot to help parents find quality care. What are some resources that parents can use when they're looking for a program that really invests in best practices?
Yeah, I think, there's a few resources. One of them is during the pandemic, Nebraska developed a resource and referral website, which lists all of the licensed child care programs, whether it's a family home or child care center or a Head Start program. They're automatically generated, and that is just the Nebraska Resource and Referral Network.
Sure.
And so you can use a map search on there. You can put in an address, and then you can do a 1, 3, 5, 10-mile radius. You can put in very specific criteria, like serves children on subsidy, or speaks Spanish, or transports to and from school, or some of the very specific things that may be important for you. So that tool is a great resource. The Step Up to Quality website lists all the programs that are participating in that quality initiatives. It'll tell you where the program is currently rated, and so you can get a little more information about that. And let me see here. What other resources? Oh, the MyLink app. If you're not familiar with that, that was developed not out of our office, but through a different part of support in Lincoln. And that MyLink app would take people to resources for kids and families. You don't need internet to use that program, which I think is really cool. So if you don't have that Wi-Fi access, you can still look up and find access to all. You can find housing supports or food supports or really any supports. And there's a section in there for children.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Good information.
Yeah. That also, the MyLink app is available in multiple languages. So that's another great tool.
What are you currently most excited about Lincoln Littles, about what you're doing now or what's coming down the road?
Oh my, that's a big question. We are right in the middle of doing our strategic planning for the next 3 years. We're just in the middle of our 5th year of operation. So it's an exciting time because we can really reflect on some of the things that we've accomplished, but then really start planning for the future and think about what are we doing well and what do we need to do better? And, are we doing too much? Do we need to narrow things down and deepen the effect in some areas, and not be a mile wide and an inch deep. Maybe we need to narrow, or maybe we need to stay. And so I think that's what I'm most excited about, figuring out from our community. We have lots of people that have given feedback to help us better understand what's next for early childhood in Lincoln. So I'm excited.
That's
Because it'll kind of narrow down maybe what I'm supposed to do every day.
It can probably be overwhelming because there's,
It's
all
kind of
the
never ending
options.
because,
Yes.
early childhood doesn't have a system connector like a public school system. So childcare programs are operating kind of independently and they don't have that structured support. So Lincoln Littles is the only community that in Nebraska that we have found that has that structured support. And the providers are really needing people to bring them together, and they need somewhere to go to be connected, and families need somewhere to go and get resources and be connected. And so there are a lot of things that come in, and we just want to do everything and we want to help everyone, but we realize we only have so much capacity. So
Yeah.
and so many hands. When
and
it's,
so many hands, right?
So many hours in the day.
So many hours in the day, yeah.
Well, and Lincoln Littles wasn't initially created to be that support system for providers and families
right.
as it is now, right? That's just
Right.
evolved because of yours and Ann's hard work.
Yeah, and it evolved because of the pandemic. I mean, we were really focusing in on the scholarship program and trying to figure out what else should we do, and then we had a pandemic, and the pandemic took us in the direction of where we're at now.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
And in many ways became a real blessing because
sadly, it was a sad way to be a blessing,
Yeah.
but in this case, it showed us exactly where to go and what to do and where the needs were. And Michelle Suarez, who I said started this work before us, she told us, follow the energy and it will take you where you need to go. And that's what we feel like, just follow the energy, and that's what we've done. Yeah.
exciting. How exciting. Yet I think I'm hyperventilating a little bit thinking about all of those pieces.
I do want to say, though, that I said we have a small staff and we've doubled our staff, but there are a lot of people in this community that care very much about early childhood and are working alongside us, maybe not as staff members at Lincoln Littles, but they're doing great things. They're donating money to help support the different initiatives that we do. They are coming along to help guide where the work goes. They're connecting us, and they're making sure that while our city is planning and putting things into place, that they're thinking about early childhood. If you're going to build a new neighborhood, is there childcare?
Right.
And that's new. So that, that hasn't been historically how things have been in our city. So we're very thankful about that.
What about the Bethany and Rachel that maybe want to support, hear this and go, okay, this sounds like a great organization. Or a business owner that maybe is like, this is something. What ways can businesses or individuals in Lincoln support Lincoln Littles?
Well, we are a nonprofit and funded by grant sources. So the top of the list is always you can contribute funding to help our work. But there are so many other ways. You can offer ideas and support for the work that we're currently doing, or maybe where we need to be focused. And then we do have ongoing activities that need volunteers. And one thing I'm thinking of is the Mayor's Run is coming up. And Lincoln Littles was chosen to be the recipient of the, I think it's $1 for every registration packet that comes in we get, which is wonderful. But part of that is that we have to stuff the packets. There's about 4,000 packets. So if somebody wants
stuffing party.
we have stuffing parties, and we just have things that come up along the way that are help. And I think also just helping us help our community engage and better understand that we all have to talk about early childhood. That's probably the biggest way you can help us.
Right.
Tell people everyone should be caring about this.
Yes. We say it's an everyone thing.
We're a community.
really
issue.
is.
We say it's an everyone issue. Yeah.
And very true. Well, Suzanne, I'm so grateful that you came and visited with us, because you really have a wealth of knowledge that we could probably tap for a very long time.
Thank you.
And you're very busy and doing amazing work in the community, especially the early childhood community. It is, as an early childhood director, I think everybody's exhausted but really passionate about what we do.
Right.
And to have advocates out there that are working so tirelessly and growing what you do to serve more people is such a blessing to us. And I'm grateful that you took time out of your day to come and visit with Bethany and I, even though I still can't hear myself.
I can hear you, but I feel like I can't hear myself.
Oh, well, see, look at this.
You're a mess.
Yes, we are a mess. And the fact that you came to talk to a messy group.
No, and
Thank you.
we appreciate the opportunity because we're just trying to make sure people know and have a better understanding. And, Rachel and I, we have a long history together of working together. One of the biggest early childhood advocates I know, and probably one of the best people you could expose your children to. And so it's my pleasure to be here. And I think Messiah is lucky to have you running their program and leading this work. And I'm really excited to see where things go. And, you guys are in your infancy stage too.
Yeah.
And there's much to be done. So I look forward to continued collaboration and partnership and much to do together.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And thank you to Dr. Julie, who's still sitting back there. Is she still awake?
I can see her.
I see her through the cracks.
She's biting her tongue. She wants to talk.
Thank you so much, Suzanne.
Thank you.